like that in his entire life. He swept away the sailors, shook them off, and tore the spike out of his bleeding eye. And in that moment he was transformed, howling with a pain he had never known, and the room freaked. The sheep freaked, the goats freaked, the sailors freaked. Everybody hid back in the cave. They had never been through anything like that. The howling was so loud, it pulled neighbors coming running. And in that process, we began evolution. The evolution of a primordial creature began in that moment. He was considered by Odysseus as evil because he had eaten sailors. He was considered a primal base life form. And in that moment, he was reduced to nothing but pain. It also was the beginning of the process of the man of intellect transforming and defeating the man of nature. Howling inside that room full of pain and blood and bile from his torn eye brought neighbors, and neighbors ran to see if they could help. The diminution of the man of nature by the man of intellect happened on three levels. First, with alcohol, the man of intellect took away the strength of the man of nature. Then by gouging out his eye, he took away his vision, made him subservient. And third, because it was a primal mind that could not understand both sides of a pond, took away reinforcements. This is the best image that I could find for the way I feel about Polyphemus. I think the relationship and the sizes is about right. Odysseus referred to him as evil because he grabbed these sailors and he killed them and he ate them. In approximately this manner. I say there's another way of looking at it. We know from Book 9 in the Odyssey that the Cyclops were not a people of industry. They didn't plant anything. All they did was harvest. They took the goods that God gave them to eat. We are better than gods. We don't serve other people. The gods serve us. We are better than gods. They are hunter-gatherers. They do not plant crops. So what this is, they came across talking food. Basically, talking food. A hot dog without the bun. Modern equivalent. You think it's so strange? What about commercials with talking M&Ms? The Pillsbury Doughboy. Snap, crackle, pop, delicious. Talking food. Why is that such a strange thing? Notice, Polyphemus didn't kill all the sailors. The way a cat would. Cat kills just to kill. Polyphemus ate 2 for breakfast, 2 for dinner, or the other way around, 2 for dinner, 2 for breakfast, 2 the next night for dinner. Sufficient to his needs. It's just food. It's not evil. And in that moment of extreme pain and duress, he waited because of the nature of his duty. He waited because he's a shepherd. He tends his flocks. And there, in that terrified room, that moment, what's going to happen? That moment, I looked at my own life to see where I have a moment like that. I was a freshman. I was your age. We were stationed for one endless winter at this godforsaken Air Force base on the Upper Peninsula of northern Michigan. KSR Air Force Base. You never, ever go to northern Michigan. Horrible place. Anyway, my father and I were able to do hunting and fishing. I was raised a hunter and a fisherman. And we went deer hunting on a couple of occasions. And on one of those occasions, we were in a clearing, came into a clearing, and in the clearing was a salt lick. And we're talking about the deep forest. A salt lick. Both of us were a little nervous because a hunter had put that salt lick out there to draw animals into the clearing so that from whatever blind they were at, they'd have a clear shot at it. Well, all animals in the forest eat salt. I have never to this day seen a bear in the wild, and I want to keep it that way. There's nothing good about a bear when it comes to being a human being. But I did hear one. They told us when we got to northern Michigan, You'll smell the bear before you see it. And that was the instance. The bear smelled us long before we did him, but when we did, it's a horrible smell. It's an old, dead, dirty sock smell. That bear didn't like us being near the salt lick. We never did see it, we just heard it. And black bears do a thing with, I can't make the sound. They pop their jaw, it's a thing, they pop their mandible in some way. It's a precursor to a growl. It's not a growl, it's going to happen before the growl, I guess. We never made it to growl. But it's a popping noise. And that bear was not happy that we were in that clearing near that salt. And we heard him just kind of going through the woods around us. And in that moment, my dad and I, back to back, that was that moment I felt in my life exactly what those sailors felt inside that cave. I don't care how brave you are. Inside that cave was a moment of tremendous fear. But Polyphemus waited to do his duty, and when Dawn's rosy fingers told the sheep it was time to go outside, they let him know. And he moved the stone out of the way, and he blocked the entrance, and he felt to keep the sailors in, and he did his duty. He milked those sheep and goats, because if you keep dairy animals, you must milk them every morning and every evening, or they will die. He did his duty, and then he went out into the fields with them to protect them, because that is his duty. He's a shepherd. And he put that huge stone back in place, fully confident that those sailors were still inside that cave. And then he went out in the fields to do his duty. I wondered about reading when he was howling in pain and his neighbors ran to him, a society of hermits. How do you make a society of hermits? They keep away from each other, they demand their own private space, and yet when someone was in trouble, they came to his aid. And I thought perhaps each would know their own fields, and they protect their fields and go next to another Cyclops in his field, and there probably was some kind of greeting. Like, day is bright, bright is day, stay away. And the polite response to that would be, day is bright, stay away all night. Some kind of greeting and answer back and forth in order to make a society, to draw people in and push them away, approach avoidance. There had to be something like that, or they wouldn't come to his aid. But in that moment, he's put the stone back in his place, and he's tending his sheep, wondering what he's going to do. He's blind. He doesn't know the sailors are out until Odysseus calls to him. But Odysseus has overlooked the fact that Polyphemus is a shepherd. Shepherds protect their flocks with a rock. The Bible makes mention of a guy named David, who was a shepherd who did pretty good with a rock. That's the way shepherds protect their animals from the wolves and the lions that would eat their stuff. So when he hears Odysseus in the boat, he grabs a big rock and throws it and almost gets it. Because Odysseus had forgotten a very basic fact. Perhaps he didn't do it every minute. Monocular vision has no depth perception. Binocular vision has depth perception. So what the creature has developed through its lifetime is extremely enhanced hearing, the same way an owl hunts. An owl, biologically, the ears are offset higher and lower, closer and farther, so they can triangulate in pitch darkness a sound. Am I higher than the noise of the mouse? Am I lower? Am I to the left? Am I to the right? And they can hit that mouse or that rustle within an inch in pitch blackness based on hearing, exactly the way Polyphemus threw that rock. And the second rock would have hit that ship perfectly. But they mention in the Odyssey that the sailors rowed like crazy to get away, and that extra effort got them just ahead of that stone when it came down. Now when Odysseus yelled back at Polyphemus and said, "It's not nobody who poked your eye out, it's I, Odysseus," a couple of things happened. One, the king of Ithaca committed blasphemy when he said, I know as surely as if I killed you, you would go to hell. I know that no God is going to fix your eye. Your dad or anybody else, that's blasphemy. Describing what a God will and won't do, can and can't do, God's don't like it. And remember, Poseidon, Polypha was his dad, had protected Odysseus inside the Trojan horse during the takeover of that city. And after Troy fell, Odysseus did not commit sacrifice to Poseidon. Poseidon was chapped about that. Now he pokes out the eye of Poseidon's son and commits blasphemy. If you look in the book, the hardest challenges happen after the island of the Cyclops because of Poseidon's demand. Also, in that moment, when he calls back and says, I am Odysseus, it's I that put your eye out. And that ancient prophecy bubbled up in his mind. Polyphemus, I don't know, I'm having trouble with that word today. I just can't imagine it. Polyphemus, multiple syllables, I guess. Polyphemus has an awakening. We are better than gods, thought he, because things are provided to us. But in that moment, when he realizes that seer had a power, there is more in heaven and earth Horatio than dreamt of in your philosophy. It's a moment of awakening. I find it interesting that he had to lose his eye to gain his vision. In order to understand there is more, he was awakened by the loss of his sight. It's a character of evolution, binocular over monocular. We see it Homo sapiens over Neanderthal, progressive over conservative. It's the process of life. And we see it in Polyphemus. When next we meet Polyphemus is in Virgil's Aeneid. And he writes about him saying that Polyphemus has hacked down a pine tree to act as his staff. Then in the 1st century, Ovid in Metamorphosis writes about Polyphemus, introducing him to Roman audiences in the same way that Romans would understand. Because now Polyphemus is old enough to take a mate. He was young when this happened. He lived alone. So now he's of age to take a mate. And he pursues that courtship in the way that 1st century Romans do. He trimmed his beard. He wrote a poem. He learned how to sing. Fade out, fade in. It's now 1718. Georg Handel writes an opera, Assis and Galatea. Oh, in this moment, with his goat, his only friend, Dynamos, part of the way the man of intellect overcomes the man of reason is to turn the man of nature, is to turn the man of nature against himself. He used, once he blinded him, he used the man of nature to open that door, that the sailors couldn't. Then he turned Polyphemus' only friend, the ram Dynamos, which is a Greek word meaning powerful, from which we get dynamite or dynamic. He turned his only friend against him to help his escape. I like to think that perhaps the reason they were friends was because of the nature of themselves. That Polyphemus would take his huge fist and push it right against Dynamos' forehead and gently push back. Because Dynamos is a ram. He's the dominant ram. He would set his legs and he would push back because that is the nature of rams. A good way to think of the man of intellect versus the man of nature is a bullfight. In a bullfight, it is the nature of the bull to attack that target. It is the man of intellect who steps aside and misguides him. So in this way, he turns his own life against himself to get him to open the door, and then turns his only friend against him in order to escape. 1718, Handel's opera, Assis and Galatea. Assis is a river sprite, and he's in love with Galatea, a sea nymph. And it seems to be a marriage made in heaven, or at least a courtship made there. But the problem is, he wasn't the only one who loved Galatea. Polyphemus saw her and was swept away. And because by this time he had learned how to sing, he had evolved, he had learned courtly manners. In the piece, there is a duet sung, an aria duet sung between the soprano, Galatea, and the basso profundo, which was Polyphemus. He starts by saying, I rage, I melt, I burn. The feeble god hath stabbed me to my heart. Thou trusty pine, I lay thee aside. Bring me some 100 reeds of sufficient length to make a pipe for my capacious mouth. Capacious, good word for Cyclops. That I may send enchanting accents of sweet Galatea's beauty and my love. O ruddier than the cherry, so much sweeter than the berry. O nymph so bright as moonshine night, as lithe as kidlings merry. Kidlings, baby goats, is all I knew. Ripe as the melting luster, talking about grapes, which grew wild on his property. No lily has such luster, oh, hard to fight his raging flame, more furious than storm's bluster. And at this point, Assis is seeing Galatea beginning to soften. She is the target of a huge amount, just the volume of male desire. And she starts to, as Scarlett O'Hara might say, have the vipers. And Assis sees this and he's afraid he's going to lose her. So he steps up to sing, as tenors do, about his love. And he starts to sing, and Polyphemus reaches over and grabs the big rock and kills him. Because that is his nature. And then he sweeps Galatea into his arms and sweeps her away to the only place he has ever known, which is the cave. The cave where his father Poseidon and his mother Threus raised him. The cave where Odysseus blinded him. And there their love came forth with at least one child, Keltos. Keltos, the primogeniture of the Celtic people. Such things don't last. Such things can't last. The difference is too great between them. The passion burns out and day-to-day life takes its toll. And you can understand why. Ladies, imagine your home is ankle deep in goat crap, and sheep crap, and cannibal crap. And she's thinking to herself, just imagine for a moment the drool. And in the middle of the night, in a locked cave, when your husband passes gas so loud it reverberates in the cave, and the sheep's eyes water, she said, the last thing she said to him was, "Don't you ever pick up anything!" And he looked at her the way men look at women when they're furious, like, of course he didn't have an eye, so like, and you know that huge rock that Odysseus and 6 sailors could not move? She slammed it on the way out the door. Boom! There you go, cave boy. I'm out of here. And she went off to Nymphland, a place, by the way, I've been looking for a long time. haven't quite got an address on that yet. Art. Art is a wonderful ambassador. Art shows the very heart of things. I like this piece. It catches a unicorn, a monocular vision. It catches the primitive clothing based on the animals that were caught by a cyclops in order to live. Those are interesting things. But also what touches me is the material, the medium. The medium the artist chose to work with. It's soft. It's not fierce. It's warm. And in that it conjures that moment that is sort of unifying to all of us, that moment where no matter how horrible or terrible the monster, That moment with Keltas. That universal moment is by the material that was used for this. This image, I don't know if it's photoshopped. I don't know if it's real. It's still a powerful image. And what it speaks to me is Telemus warning. When Polyphemus understands that Telemus, the seer, his prediction had come true. And what a shocking, transformational revelation that was for him. I look at this and it brings Telemus's warning home to me. Because Polyphemus thinks, no, not you. You're not the one I've been afraid of all my life. No. He's supposed to be tall. Odysseus is supposed to be tall. He's supposed to be powerful. He's supposed to do battle with me. He's supposed to be worthy to do battle with me. Relying on brawn. That lesson carried through into our own times. We didn't learn it either. We didn't learn it just like Polyphemus didn't learn it. We have all the carrier battle groups and the Trident nuclear submarines and the stealth aircraft and the military bases all over the world and 3 deep radar around the perimeter of our country. And 19 hijackers came in with box knives and cut our vision out. That's the lesson of Polyphemus. I look at this and think, scientists regard amphibians in general, frogs in particular, as the canaries in the coal mine as far as the environment is concerned. Are we so fiercely opposed to a giant, powerful adversary that we miss the small adversary that comes in and creates that? Good example, are you following what's happening with the honeybees in the world? Honeybees in this country? That has the potential to incredibly impact every one of us and our kids and grandkids and so on. The honeybee issue is huge. But we're looking at Star Wars. We're looking at missile interdiction systems. Bee pollen may be the thing that provides the greatest danger to us. Or lack thereof. Now, I am a little sensitive to creatures because I used to play them. I played a lot of monsters, and that's one of them. That's from the second villain tip. The concept is still with us. The concept of monocular vision, a narrow, limited worldview is still with us. Of course, our basic nature is to find humor where we can. Okay, let's talk for a minute about the elements of what storytelling is. And what you guys, we've been doing this for a long time. We've been doing this over